game.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, a lot of games are like that. I mean, hell, I could say the same thing about Mario, the Paper Mario series. Like the first game is kind of a basic baby's first RPG. Thousand Year Door is a little bit more complex. Super Paper Mario is a spin off, so it doesn't count. Um, Sticker Star is hot buttered trash. Color Splash is better than Sticker Star, but not great. And then you have Origami King, which for me, I just was disappointing. The presentation for that game is great, but the execution is just
Yeah.
not good. Um,
At least it keeps it. At least it keeps in the RPG section most of the time.
uh, Superficially, Origami King superficially on the surface appears to be an RPG, but it really isn't because you don't really have experience. You don't level up. Like, in order for you to become more powerful and gain like a higher damage threshold, you're finding heart pieces, which doesn't make any sense. Um, you know, it's like I said, the presentation is great. The execution is less than uh, adequate, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. Let's have everyone introduce themselves. We're live. Let's start it with the lady first, and let's get it started.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, to the BS Busters Midweek podcast for the first day of the last month of the year. I'm Joy Moonstar, and not again, Bobby.
Well, it's not something Bobby did. It's just something that came out that it's like, oh, that's interesting, Bobby Kotick. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Kenoshi.
Hello, my name is Kenoshi Abamanito. Glad to be on another one of these BS Busters.
Thank you. Glad for you to be here. So, this is the final part of our Game of the Year award ceremony, where we give our Game of the Year, because we obviously didn't play a lot of those games on, you know, Jeff Keighley's bullshit ass Game of the Year awards, which is one big marketing ploy for those games. Um, Zero integrity, folks. Zero integrity. Um, so we're gonna do part 3 of that. We're also gonna do uh, cover the topic. What would be the ultimate GTA style game? Not necessarily a GTA, but a GTA style game, taking the genre of sandbox style semi open world sandbox game into different categories. And finally, unpopular opinions and more. We have our other panelists can bring a free topic if they wish, and we'll discuss it. So without much ado, let's dive into it. So the last 2 casts, part 1, we covered platformer racing and sports game of 2021. Part 2, we covered RPG, fighting game, beat 'em up, and action game of the year. And part 3, we're gonna finish it out with the best indie game, MMO game, best remaster of the year, the best surprise game, and everything culminating with what is our game of the year. So, who wants to dive into what they think is the best indie game of 2021 to them first? And how you got to that conclusion, not just this game is the best indie game, and no real explanation as to why you feel that way.
Eastward, I like the fact that it's a blend of The Legend of Zelda and Earthbound, and I also really like the soundtrack. It's a really interesting soundtrack. Uh, Interesting how it's arranged.
Fair enough. Jewel.
It's kind of hard for me to actually recommend some indie games because of anything I've been keeping I've been mostly keeping on the big titles that I could find at times. But if I do go with something that probably be indie, um my shout would be Nexamon.
All right, fair
So
enough.
then again that was just released this year, at least for the Switch. So
Works perfectly. It's a 2021
yeah,
game. For
yeah,
me,
and I think yeah, and it really scratches an itch that I kind of had ever since I tried to get rid of a certain other game series.
yeah. Well, I mean, you can only do the same thing repackaged slightly so many times,
Yeah,
which is where Pokemon kind of falls flat on its ass. Um, uh, for me, my indie game of the year, it was tough because I've played a lot of indie games this year. But my indie game of 2021 was a break between Eastward and The Ascent. And while I really like Eastward, no joke,
you're
I
giving
really
it
like
to the Ascent.
Eastward. I'm giving it to The Ascent because Eastward got a managed to get um, uh, the top of the line for another um, category on this list. So I gave it to The Ascent. The reason I gave it to The Ascent is because The Ascent has done a lot of things right. When it comes like when you make a game that's set in a world where there's a lot of unsaid lore, you want gamers to get like you want to entice gamers in wanting to learn more about this world. Like if the developers of this game said, "Hey, we're going to write a supplementary material book about the gaming world and the races and the species and like all that type of stuff," I would be interested in reading it. And you know, when a game can grab my attention like that and my imagination and make me want to be invested in the series, um, I give it kudos because a lot of games don't do that. Like even games that I love, like like I don't want to read the manga based on Breath of the Wild or Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Like a lot of people played the Blade of Torna, the Gold, whatever, that fucking DLC, the expansion for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I was not interested because I was like, I don't really care. Like as soon as I heard it was a prequel, I'm like, nothing you do is gonna matter in this prequel, so I don't care. And I was okay with
Prequels,
it.
at least prequels try to tell you how it came to be.
Yeah, prequels are good when it's something that needs to be told. But to me, I didn't really need to hear about the fall of this civilization X amount of years before, because no matter what you did in the prequel, ultimately, a lot of people that you would get attached to were going to die. It was like watching Rogue One, and people complaining. Well, you know, I didn't find a character I could get attached to. You're not supposed to get attached to these characters. They're all gonna die.
I was gonna make a comment of the prequel trilogy for that one, but Rogue One works too.
The prequel trilogy, it's like, okay, look, I know that Anakin Skywalker is gonna fall to the dark side and become Darth Vader. We knew that. When he showed up, it's like, yeah, you ain't gonna have no happy ending, kid. I knew that Yoda was gonna survive. I knew that Obi-Wan Kenobi was gonna survive. All those other Jedi, it's like, man, you're cool. You're gonna die though. I like you, but you're gonna die. Um, you know, and I knew basically by the end of the Phantom Menace, where you see Palpatine uh, talking to Darth Maul, I was like, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. It's like, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing there, George. I wish you would have shown your hand sooner, but whatever. So yeah, but this does the opposite of that. Like I'm actually invested in the world and I want to know more. So for me, that's the best indie game for me. Plus, it's like the world is interesting and the Ascent is more clever than it should be. Because on the surface, the Ascent should just be this casual Diablo clone sci-fi cyberpunk game. But the Ascent is you know, it does something deeper. The game is yes, on the surface it's a Diablo clone cyberpunk game. isometric shooter. But the game is called The Ascent, where you basically play this
Rising Star of sorts.
well, not a rising star. You play what is essentially a slave in the future, a wage slave, where you're so in debt to the corporation that you have to take any shitty job just to survive, and
Oh god, like Abe.
working in the sewers of this mega city, and slowly but surely you work your way up to the top, and you make an ascent from the shitty sewers all the way up to the top in order to become in order to get your freedom and become an independent contractor and not be so indebted to the company that you're basically screwed. I mean, it's like, wow, like The Ascent actually, the title of the game
Makes
actually
sense.
makes sense. It's a double entendre. It's great
Yeah.
and it
And I
works.
was about yeah. It got me thinking about Abe going from the worst job in the world to kind of the best job in the world.
I don't know who Abe is.
Abe's o- the Abe's Odyssey, if I got it right.
You mean the Mutikin from those Oddworld games?
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, kind of, but not really, because in Abe's Odyssey, like the Mutikins basically used to be like the most powerful species on the planet, and then over time, like as their brood mother was captured, they were enslaved by the Sligs and all that type of shit. Anyway, actually, Oddworld has a pretty is like that too. Oddworld, the series is actually pretty deep, and I wish Lauren Lanning would like do some manga or
And
licenses out so that the story could be fleshed out without having to play those punishingly hard platformers.
yeah, I was gonna say the games are pretty interesting, but oh stars, those games will spank your rear end 3 ways to Sunday.
Yeah, the lore is great. The gameplay is just the games are actually really hard. Kenoshi, you have any thoughts before we move on to the next category?
No, not.
All right, we'll go to the next one. So the next category is best MMORPG of the year. Now, this is where a caveat has to be added because the only really new MMORPG that came out this year is New World. So it doesn't have to be one that only came out this year because clearly, they aren't launching new
Um,
MMORPGs every year.
I would say that I would say an added caveat would be they at least updated their system during this year. How about that?
No, doesn't have to be updated this year. It's something that you've been playing this year or you're familiar with or you know about. Something that you've played and enjoyed. So it doesn't have to
Well,
be
at least
something that
as
was
far as
updated just this year.
okay, it's just that if anything, I thought at least it would help narrow things down a little. But
No,
for
it's
that
just
sake,
something you were playing and enjoyed this year.
in that case, the thing I tested out somewhat to see if I actually would enjoy it is actually the game that people are fleeing to get away from another game.
What, Final Fantasy 14?
A Realm Reborn.
Yeah, I heard that was
Ye-
good.
It's not bad. It's not bad, really.
Yeah, I heard it was good.
And if you're wondering, I was trying one of the more magical races, the Numeru, and that's a weird name, I know.
You mean the bunny chicks?
Yeah,
The Numo?
that's Vera.
No, the Numo are the ones that are kind of hunched back and
Yeah,
look like
they're
humanoid rabbit people. Yeah.
to a degree, yeah. And I was saying that they're the most magically inclined.
I mean, between them and the Moogles, the Moogles are pretty magical too. But
Oh yeah,
the Moogles have shittier HP growth That's the if you want a healer who can take a little bit of, if you want a magic user who can take a few hits, then you got to go with Numo. But if you want just pure
Yeah,
magic, you got
I
to
was
go with
gonna
Moogle.
I was gonna say that those guys in some games are supposed to be the big MP weapons of the game series.
Who, the Moogles?
The numero.
The Numo the Numo are only they're only in Final Fantasy Tactics and the Final Fantasy 14. They're only in those games. They're not in any other Final
Yeah,
Fantasy games.
yeah, I said the numero.
Okay. Kanoshi?
I would have to say, I didn't play a MMO this year. I mean, I played Final Fantasy 14 for a little bit, but I was like, this game's too grindy. I mean, it's probably good if you're into that sort of thing.
I was,
It's probably good if you're into that sort of thing, but
yeah,
it's
this
not
is
really something I
this
could
is
get
for
into.
somebody that could endure grind.
Oh my man, that's why. That's you see, that's where you messed up, man. You gotta. Yeah, Final Fantasy 14 is kind of grindy, but I'll give Hironobu Sakaguchi props. The dude took some time off of work and grinded through the 60 plus hours of content to max out to play through the storyline with his character that he created to play that game. I was like, God damn, you know what? You, sir, got your nerd props right there. You get your nerd accolades. Cause I wouldn't do that shit. Cause I don't,
Yeah,
you know,
you
that's,
yeah you gotta endure grinding in order to do some things. At least in that game.
yeah, yeah.
And stars help you if your patience is that paper of a paper towel.
Fair enough, fair enough. So for me, this was a tough one because I was playing 2 MMORPGs this year, but one of them won out. It's a game that has an update coming out later on this month, December 14th. Um, and this should not be a surprise to anyone who knows me because I'm a Star Wars fan, but
Of course,
it's SWOTOR. It's
Knights of
SWOTOR!
the Old Slow Tour.
Star
I was
Wars
about
The
to
Old
say,
Republic.
okay, Star Wars: The Old Republic. Yeah,
That's right.
I uh,
I did it.
I was thinking Knights of the Old Republic for a
No,
moment, so
no,
that's my goof.
Knights of the Old Republic are two single player games. One made by BioWare, the other one made by Obsidian. I would have, if EA was smart, instead of making Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, if they would have had a team at BioWare make the Old Republic 3, but yeah, sorry, Knights of the Old Republic 3, but EA is not smart. They do stupid things all the
Actually,
time.
they try to show their pride and accomplishment with certain games.
Yeah. Not
And I'm sorry, I couldn't help but use that line.
not that I have anything against the people who enjoy Battlefront, but as a KOTOR fan, I would have loved a KOTOR 3 versus another Battlefront game, a franchise that had been dormant for a while anyway. Um, but it's EA, you know. So for me, SWOTOR is my MMORPG of the year, mostly because unlike Final Fantasy 14, it's not ultra grindy. You can buy experience boosts that boost the amount of experience you get for like 3 hours. So if you basically can economize your time, you can basically say, okay, I've got 3 hours. Okay, I'm gonna go to this planet, do all these story missions, do all of these extra heroic missions, which the heroic missions, the heroic +2 missions are like, well, if you really want to do well in this mission, you need 2 people. No, you don't. If you're max level for that zone and you have good equipment, you can do those with just you and an AI companion, and you use your experience boost. You do those. You max out your level. I have like 5 characters that I've maxed their levels out to level 75. So and it didn't take me
That's a
long to
lot of
do.
I was gonna say that's quite a lot of maxing.
Yeah, the only reason I haven't maxed up the other characters because they're Sith Lords. They're the Empire, and I refuse to play as a space Nazi. So yeah.
Your line.
What?
I was saying that's your line, but yeah.
I mean that's what the Empire is. They're space Nazis. I mean,
Yeah.
like when George Lucas
The
created
thing.
the Empire, I mean, they're stormtroopers. What they call Nazis here in the real world, stormtroopers. They're led by an ultra
Yeah.
fascist leader who's racist. Same thing they're space Nazis, and I don't want to play a game
I was,
as a minority. I don't want to play a game as a space Nazi. I don't want to
I was
identify
gonna,
with that character model.
okay, it's just that if anything, I was gonna say if you really want to go for the original flavor, I would suggest trying to go with Indiana Jones characters, villains.
Well,
Those
I
guys
mean,
are easy to find.
Indiana Jones is fighting straight up Nazis. There's no allegory there. He's fighting like 2 of the 3 movies. He's fighting Nazis. So, and I know people are gonna say, "What about Kingdom of Crystal Skull?" Fuck that movie. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. So yeah, for me, SWOTOR is my MMORPG of the year just because it's not too grindy. Um, it's easier to get into. For me, it was easy to get into. I'm a Star Wars fan, so any game that lets me. And they're coming out with a new update this month that's going to let you basically mix and match style. So it's no longer going to be a World of Warcraft clone, which they should have done years ago. So, you can
Hey,
basically.
better late than never.
I mean, it should have been this from the start. Like the game, like I think the game would have been so much better if instead of making it into a shitty Warcraft clone with a great story. I won't take that away from SWTOR. Even when back in the day when it came out 11 years ago or 7 years, like whenever it came out, it had
Several years off.
great,
That'll help.
great story, but it was like the gameplay was just a shitty World of Warcraft clone. If they had leaned more into the RPG roots of the SWTOR series and actually had like classless classes, like archetypes instead of classes, it probably would have been a better game. But they were chasing World of Warcraft. And I'm telling you right now, so many RPGs have failed because they were chasing World of Warcraft. Just like a lot of RPGs failed because they were chasing EverQuest before World of Warcraft, and before EverQuest it was Ultima Online. Like, stop chasing what's the big thing and try to create something new or be original. Like, just stop trying to chase what's already there. Anyway, so that's my MMORPG of the year. Both of you guys said Final Fantasy 14. I chose SWTOR. Both of which are great. None of them are World of Warcraft, so that's excellent.
Hey, if anything, that's a middle finger to Blizzard.
Yeah, middle finger to Activision Blizzard. Our next category is what is the best remaster of the year. Now, we've had some remasters come out this year. Some high profile, some low profile. Before we get into the good ones that came out this year, let's talk about some of the bad ones, like games like 13. The remaster of 13 that was so bad that people went out and bought the old version of 13 because they hated the new remaster of 13.
Dang.
Yeah, it was bad. The remaster of Shadow Man, which was announced the last year, but it came out this year. Now, I'm going to keep it real. I enjoyed the remaster of Shadow Man. But I could see where some people would not like it. We also had some other remasters come out this year. We had Need for Speed Remastered come out. Hot Pursuit come out. So, I mean, and it's perfectly serviceable. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's middle of the road. Um, but for we also had Saints Row the Third remastered come out this year, which I'm gonna say right now, the remaster of Saints Row the Third was great.
I was gonna make the joke that that's the better third game that got third that got remade.
Well, I mean, the remaster of Saints Row the Third was great on Steam. It was absolute trash on it was absolute trash on the Epic Game Store because of their damn
DRM.
yeah, the DRM that made it really hard to play it. Also, we had another remaster that was absolutely terrible come out this year.
And sadly, it was a number 3 game.
No, it
As I
wasn't.
said,
You don't even know what I was going to say. It was
I thought
Crisis
you were going to aim
remastered.
at GTA.
No, I'm not getting a GTA until the end. Crisis was remastered, and it ran like shit on everything but a really good PC. So once again, you have to ask, does this run Crisis?
Does this run Crisis? Yep.
Does this one run Crisis? Because, for reasons that make a lot of sense. So with that being said, that leads to the final little bit, which was a trilogy of remasters that were absolutely terrible, which was the 3D GTA games that were
That was what I was expecting.
poorly remastered. Like this should be a textbook on how not to remaster something. And that just came out a couple of weeks ago, so yeah.
Oh god, that had to be hurting.
It was bad. It was bad. So with that being said, that leads to
The remasters.
some good remasters that came out this year, or at least, relatively functional remasters. We had Skyrim was remastered for the anniversary edition, or at least had a lot of extra content added to it, updated a little bit to run on more modern PCs. You had a re-release of Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, which came with a lot of extra content. And I mean, that's pretty much those are pretty much the top ones that came out this year. Unless you guys have something that was remastered that you were like came out this year.
The only one I could really vouch for in a sense might be the Monkey Ball one.
Yeah, but was that a remaster or was that just a weird scrambled re-release of shit?
I said that it might be, but I'm iffy about it.
Damn, there's another remaster I forgot. There's more remasters that came out this year. Or at least almost this year. There was Tony Hawk 1 and 2 came out last year. There was that Mafia the Mafia 1 and 2 remasters that came out this year, or was it late last year? There was the Destroy All Humans that came out this year. That game was remastered as well. And that was a good remaster.
I could say that remaster was memorable.
It was a relatively good remaster. So we had some good remasters this year. We also had some terrible remasters this year. But so what do you guys think is the best remaster that came out this year? Where you were like, okay, these people clearly cared about what they were remastering, and the game that they produced was pretty damn good.
I'd say the Destroy All Humans.
All right, Kadoshi.
I'd say I didn't really play any of the remasters this year, but Destroy All Humans looked interesting.
All
I
right.
played the Tony Hawk games; those were pretty good.
Yeah, but it would have been hard to mess up those original games. I'm not putting it over Activision to do it. I'm just saying it would have been hard to do. For me, my best remaster of the year is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Because basically, they completely remade the first two games in a new engine using AI upscaling, like a certain other game remaster that came out. But unlike, they actually took the time to go over the shit after they used AI upscaling to fix more shit. Um, and BioWare didn't use a B team to sorry, not a B team, a D team porting studio to make this remaster. They actually, it was in house, so kudos to them. So it's Destroy All Humans for Jewel, Kenoshi. It's the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 remake. Um, I'm going with Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I started playing the first game, and then other stuff came on. So, but I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to add an asterisk to Mass Effect Legendary Edition. There was a little bit of content, the Pinnacle Station DLC, that was missing from the first game, but thanks to the modding community, they went and got the old assets and actually added them to the new remaster. So once again, you have modders came in and actually rounded out those rough edges, which is pretty cool. So with that being said, let's keep it moving. What's the best surprise game of the year for you guys? Like a game that you didn't see coming. You're like, wow, this is much better than it has any business being. I didn't see it coming.
I'd say Guardians of the Galaxy for me.
Oh, that's cool. Jewel?
Hard call for me, but I would go with Kenoshi on this one.
Guardians
Guardian.
of the Galaxy was a surprise for you? You're like, I didn't expect this to be good.
Yeah, especially since thank you Avengers for lowering the bar.
I can't 100% agree with that. Not because it's not true, but because
I'm saying they lowered the bar, but I was gonna say what else do you think could have done that?
Well, the reason I say I can't 100% agree with you is because from what I've been able to understand about the about that game, the Avengers, is the single player is pretty good. The online like the fact that Square Enix Frankenstein on the always online like games as a service bullshit to it made that game bad. Like underneath the game, like the core of the game, the single player aspect is actually pretty good. It's all the other shit they Frankenstein onto there that made that game bad. And if the publisher of your game, the person who's funding your game and paying for your studio to stay open to make whatever they fucking tell you to make, tells you you have to add these features to the game, then the developers, it's not their fault that they had to add that bullshit to the game. Because there's a good game in there. It's just all that other bullshit on top of it makes it worse. Like, imagine you bought a high quality frozen pizza, okay? And you brought it home and you were like, okay, someone's staying in their house, in your house, and you're like, I have a frozen pizza in the freezer, put it in the oven and heat it up, right? And you come home and you're thinking they're just going to take your frozen pizza and follow the directions and heat it up. but they want to get creative. So they take fucking Mexican nacho cheese and pour on the shit, and sour cream, and anchovies, and chocolate syrup. You're like, what the fuck is
And
this
well,
shit?
I was gonna say it did, it did, it did make the, it did make the pizza different.
No, they
I didn't
fucked it
say
up.
how.
There's a good pizza there, but someone else added some shit that fucked it up. And that's what happened to the Avengers. It's not a bad game, but there's some shit on top of it that just messes up the whole experience. But for me, the best surprise game for me this year was uh, Eastward. I didn't expect it to come out when it did. I didn't think it was going to be great. And then I was like, this is probably going to be some bullshit. And then I played it and I'm like, this game is really, really good. So yeah, for me, that was my surprise game of the year. Guardians of the Galaxy was yours, Kenoshi. And Jewel, what was yours?
I went with Guardians as well.
So, okay, all right. Okay, fair enough. Okay, all right, okay. Channeling a little bit of my
Cheese.
no, I was riffing on Denzel Washington. Okay, all right, okay, all right. Anyway, so we're on to our next. It's interesting. We're on to our next category, which is our last category. What is your game of the year?
This is a real tricky choice, but I'd say oddly I go Eastward for this one.
All right, Eastward's your game of the year. Okay, Kenoshi.
Yeah.
Guilty Gear Strive.
Oh, okay, a fighting game. Okay, I didn't see that one coming. That's cool.
So we got a fighting game, a RPG, if I got it right. And what about you?
My game of the year was a tough one. But I have to go with Psychonauts 2.
So RPG, a platformer, and a fighting game.
Yeah, the reason I had to go with
The platformer.
well, it's not really a platformer. Psychonauts 2 is more like an adventure game that you don't have to use a lot of point and click shit with it. So, like, you know, like if you ever said to yourself, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you ever said to yourself, wouldn't it be cool if they friggin' took if if those adventure games made by LucasArts back in the day, like Monkey Island and Full Throttle and stuff like that, like what would those look like if you made them more casual, but still had the whole getting stuff and taking them to solve puzzles and that type of thing? And that's Psychonauts 2. Joel, you're sleeping. And I thought that was cool.
Sorry
So
about that.
for me, Psychonauts 2 is my game of the year. It was tough because there was a lot of good stuff that came out this year. I know people are like, people always just think about the bad stuff, but there was good stuff too that came out this year. But for me,
Yeah. I know
Psychonauts
there's
2.
good stuff that's out there. I was gonna say, I know there's good stuff out there. It's just hard to find at times.
Yeah, you got to dig through some BS, but it's worth it. But for me, that was my Psychonauts 2 was my game of the year. So there, we finished that. We finished that topic. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to the next topic?
One thing. How how much fun did you have making this list compared to what we're gonna have to deal with hearing about when the VGAs arrive?
Um, I mean, times in the past, I was like, I'm surprised this bothers me. Now, I'm just kind of like, I'm apathetic about the Game Awards because I just don't care.
For for me, I like seeing how kind of weird it is, and then me wondering, really, these guys think that this is high quality gaming. It's more like I it's more like for me, I watch them like you guys really are gonna do this. Kind of like watching what was it? Oh yeah, J- Jack and and watching them screw themselves over, and not a good version of Jack either. You get what I'm saying, right, Red?
I guess you're talking about Jackass.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
didn't
not the
know.
good one.
I didn't know what you were talking about. Yeah, for me, like I said, for me, I mean, it's kind of like this. It's like people very rarely forget. People don't always remember the good times. Like if you live in a family that's relatively stable or a neighborhood that's relatively stable, the good days or the days where nothing bad happens kind of blend together. But you remember the bad shit that happens. So it's very easy to think that 2021 was a year of, you know, bad games coming out. Like, and it doesn't help that these dumbass companies keep on bunching up all their games coming out at the same damn time almost every year,
I was
which is
gonna
in
say
November,
there's
December.
there's other seasons to release games, you know.
Yeah, yeah, there are, but they won't do it. They just keep on. Hey, man, let's keep on putting this shit out at the same time. It's kind of ridiculous. Like that bothers me. I don't like that these companies keep on. Um,
Giving giving love to October and November.
yeah, because there's 12 months in the year, and they just pile everything on at one time. You know, it's like it's the equivalent of you don't eat breakfast, you don't eat lunch, you don't eat supper, but then dinner comes and you eat all those other meals plus dinner at one time. You'd make yourself sick, and that's how it
Yeah,
feels. That's how it feels with
yeah,
these games. I'm like, and this is for everyone. This is Nintendo. This is Sony. This is Microsoft. This is third parties, second parties. There's 12 months
I was
out the
gonna
year.
say
Stop putting
that's
everything out in
sadly
the fall.
everyone.
What?
Sadly, that's everyone.
There's 12 months out the
And
year. Stop putting everything out in the fall.
I mean, if anything, there's that's the reason why I sometimes look for games in other timelines because sometimes you need the air
Yeah,
for getting these games.
you need to do something different. But yeah, for me, that's like I'm tired of this constant just. I'm like, just constantly. I'm like, do something different. Do something. Kick it up. Do something different. Nah, same thing every time, all the time. I can't. I can't deal with it. I can't. I can't continuously every fall, every holiday season, just everybody coming up with the same shit at the same time. Spread it out. Do something different. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to the next topic. Our next topic is what would be your ultimate GTA style game?
That's a little tricky because if anything, I honestly would hope for a real fantasy setting, and not like a fake city, but at least have some some interesting places like villages, towns, maybe even a castle you could raid.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be down with it.
And and if anything, you could actually even have fun with. fun and grab a bar or two to listen to some weird music.
I mean,
If they pull that off.
I'll keep it real. I would love that. Cuz basically you could have all the cool tech stuff from other you could have like technology. It's just you wouldn't have to use technology for it. You could just be like, "Hey, no, it's not technology. It's
Witchcraft.
it's magic." It's like you could have a radio, but it wouldn't be a radio. It's like, no, no, no. This is a magic music box. And basically, like, we basically got songs and music from other places and we put it in the magic music box. So you could have all that stuff. You could have you could have guns, but they'd be like steampunk guns or artificer guns. You could have grenades, but they'd be like
Maybe
alchemy
some.
grenades, you know, like stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that. Like you could have all that stuff, but it would just be fantasy. It would be fantastical.
yeah.
Um,
And sorry about going D&D style, but well, considering that I'm playing D&D, it kind of rolls off the tongue. You get that, right?
no, I get it. I get it. D&D. Actually, I think D&D would be a wonderful setting for a GTA style, um, open world, not open world, but sandbox style, um,
Game.
RPG. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be pseudo RPG because you would be like you'd have levels, you'd have job classes, and what you did would associate with that job class. In order to level it up, you could
And we
basically.
might finally get our alignment shifter progression in those in this kind
Well,
of
you'd
game.
be a murder hobo because this is a GTA knockoff. You would totally be a murder hobo, but it would make sense. It's like, hey, go to this village and talk to these people. Turns out the village has been taken over by a wannabe necromancer, and you got to fight your way out and murder the shit out of people. And it would make sense because it's a D&D universe. Yeah, I'd be down with that.
What
Create your
about you, Red?
character. You could totally steal a lot of stuff from GTA San Andreas because it would make sense. It's like you have skills that you can raise through using them. It's like, hey, you want to get better at using one-handed swords? Equip a one-handed sword and use it. Your skill with one-handed swords gets better the more you use a one-handed sword. Or hey, you want to get physically stronger? Your strength stat kind of sucks. Go lift weights. The more weights you lift, the higher your strength goes. Hey, you want your intelligence to get higher? Go find a library and start reading books. The more you read, the smarter you get.
Um, with that increased intelligence or wisdom.
That would increase intelligence. Wisdom would be you doing, um, like you doing charitable acts would be wisdom. Like, like if you went to a temple and they said, okay, we need you to go and like, feed these 10 kids, take this food to this orphanage. That would be a wisdom. That would increase your wisdom.
Yeah, and if anything, we could already guess how to raise one stat.
What, charisma? Yeah, charisma. You would be drinking hot coffee. If hot coffee would be very important. This game would be M rated. This game would totally be M rated. Um, it would not be T for teen or E for everyone. It would be totally M rated, and I'm okay with that because fuck your kids. Kanoshi, do you have something that you'd like to see in a take the GTA style formula but spin it into a different direction?
He's
It'd be
probably
interesting to
busy.
see a Zelda GTA game. GTA game mixed up uh in the Zelda universe.
I'd be cool
But I
with
guess
that.
that would kind of bleed into the D&D idea.
You know what? I'd actually be cool with that. My only thing is, I wouldn't want to play as Link. Like, it would work
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you were just some other character in that universe.
yeah, yeah.
But for me, that'd be cool. I'd be cool with that. And the level of violence, my God. Could you imagine that shit?
You'd probably be you'd probably be a river of blood.
Well, I mean, if you actually think about the level of murdering that goes on in The Legend of Zelda by Link alone, I mean, it's not a non-violent game.
Yeah, though most of the scum that you take on with Link, they they turn to clouds.
Yeah, but you know, it's like I mean that's all those games. Like if you play The Legend of Zelda, like if you really play The Legend of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda is a really I mean not Legend Mario. Mario is violent. I mean think about it. He goes around curb stomping people, lighting them on fire.
I was about
Uh
to say he jumps and stomps. He kicks. He
yeah,
throws flames. He throws ice.
I mean think
He
about
throws
it.
boomerang.
The first
He
Mario
even
Brothers
runs through some people.
the first Mario Brothers, right, is not really ultra violent. I mean, you just have Mario curb stomping random people, breaking blocks that are actually the transformed citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom, and lighting people on fire with his fire flower. That's not that bad. Occasionally he'll curb stomp a dude out of his cloud car. But then you get to Mario 2, aka Mario USA, where he's straight up like jumping on flying carpets, picking dudes up and throwing them off their flying carpet to their death. Shit like that. I mean, it's like Mario 2 stepped up the violence to a whole new level. He defeats the final boss by shoving vegetables down his throat until he chokes to death and dies. That is some
Which is
fucked up shit.
I was gonna say, which is quite creative and yet brutal.
Don't get me started with Mario 3. Mario 3 has an entire level where you get a mecha boot that can stomp on anything. So now not only are you curb stomping people, you're curb stomping them in a boot vehicle that's designed specifically to mega curb stomp people. And don't get me started on the level where Mario gets to fight the friggin' sun. You can take a Koopa shell and kick it and destroy the sun. You can destroy the sun. That shit's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
So my point being behind all of this is this: if they did a Legend of Zelda GTA style game, it would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous. I mean, Link already does a lot of GTA type shit in his games, breaking into people's houses, stealing their shit, weird ass mini games. The only thing is, the only implied sex in a Legend of Zelda game is in a mainline Legend of Zelda game is Yeto and Yetta in Twilight Princess. But is what it is.
Uh,
So finally, we have our last topic, which is unpopular opinions. Do you guys have any unpopular opinions you would like to share with the cast before we round things out?
probably a popular opinion, but I'll say it anyways. I'm actually curious of how Twitter's new CEO is gonna handle things. Hopefully for the better, but I have a feeling that this is gonna end up like as much of a dumpster fire as what Twitter's going through already.
Well, Jack Dorsey was actually doing a pretty good job. Uh, Especially when he was like, look, if you write shit that's not factually true and you want to share it, that's, bad health advice, we'll ban your ass. I can't get mad about that.
Yeah, though
Um,
some people are saying that it's gonna go backwards with the new see with the new head of the place.
I mean, they could try, but I personally, I hope that they don't, just because, you know, uh, like people say, well, it should be free and open so anyone can say anything. But the thing
Um,
is that for a lot of people, they use these social media websites as a place where they get their news. And if it's free and open and anyone can say anything with no repercussions,
then you can imagine what kind of a sewer that is. Or should
well,
we talk about Facebook for
yeah,
that?
it turns into Facebook. Or sorry, Meta. They can call it whatever the fuck they want. It's still some bullshit. Uh, but um, but yeah. So I mean, you have to have some. You have to have some.
Some kind of control.
Well, there has to be some type of metrics for how these things exist, right? And that's the problem in today's media culture, is that anyone can say anything, and if you call them out on their bullshit, they say, "Well, it's just my opinion." Well, if your opinion is rooted in some shit that's clearly not true, then your opinion means nothing, and people should be allowed to call you out on it. Um, but that's just my opinion. uh,
Yeah.
so yeah. So anyone else have any other unpopular opinions? Kenosha, you have an unpopular opinion you want to share with the cast before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I don't
Left.
think. Um, I
Yes.
I had it. I forgot what it was.
What was it about? Tangentially about. You might remember it.
Actually, I'll use this one. I don't think Dragon Ball Super is very good, but I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people feel that way.
I agree with you. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion either. I totally agree with you. I think Dragon Ball Super was a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Her say RCS yes.
I really think I really think Dragon Ball Super should have been them basically
Portion
um
out the other characters.
well, that, and also, okay, look, like I said, the okay, I think they should have ended Dragon Ball Z at the Cell Saga. That should have been the end of Dragon Ball Z. Um, and I think there shouldn't have been a Boo Saga, all that shit. I think GT's original premise, where it would have been Gohan and Trunks, um, going on their own adventures, trying to get out of their father's shadow, would have been a really good touching off point for the new series. And I think that's what Dragon Ball Super should have been. Like, you do an alternate reality where, like, the Cell games happened, Gohan defeats Cell, Goku is fucking dead, and he stays fucking dead. And then you basically take the premise behind GT and just keep it moving forward with these new characters. Once again, the sons trying to step out of their father's shadow, like Trunks realizing that his father is an asshole, and Gohan realizing that his father is an asshole. They both realize their fathers are assholes in their own different ways.
Yeah.
And they
Well,
become, they become their own men. They become their own characters. They develop their own personalities. Like Gohan having to step up and become almost like a father figure to his brother, because not that his father was ever fucking there helping to raise those kids anyway.
I was
Um,
gonna say we both know that Vegeta sadly is a better father than Goku,
but
and
that's not
that's a low
saying
bar.
much. Yeah, yeah. Not that Vegeta's a great father. He spends all his time training. He doesn't really raise his kids. Um, he'll be around to fuck Bulma, but he doesn't raise his kids. Um, so really, like, the best father figure in Dragon Ball Z is Piccolo, who
Piccolo.
ironically had no father himself, technically speaking. which is
and yet
weird.
he's able to raise Gohan.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that would be an awesome. That should have been what Dragon Ball Super was. Was just like that, like them going on their own adventures and becoming better men than their fathers were. Maybe incorporate the idea that like there's a point where like Gohan's like, you know what, I'm tired. If Vegeta, you're the source of like literally like 85% of the problems that are on this planet, and I'm tired of your shit, and I have to put you down. You know,
I was
Vegeta's
gonna
up there.
say
I'm the prince
Vegeta's
of all Saiyans. Yeah, shut the fuck up.
I was gonna say Vegeta's ego is the bigger enemy than most of the villains that happen in the Dragon Ball series.
But I'm the prince of all Saiyans. Doesn't matter. There's what? There's
You're,
like 3 Saiyans, and 2 of them are dead. Well, technically 4 Saiyans, and 2 of them are dead. Shut up. No one cares. I think when they doubled down on just like this, getting on their knees and blowing the idea of Saiyans, it just the series went down the shitter. So I agree with you. It's not an unpopular opinion, but I agree with you that Dragon Ball Super is not very good. It's better than GT, but that's a very low bar. That's, you know, it's like saying, hey, man, this open world sandbox game is better than the GTA Definitive Edition remaster. Not hard. Not hard to do.
Yeah, there were no I mean, it's not a lot of standards, that's for sure.
You know, it's like, hey man, I can jump over this stick that fell on the ground. Not surprising. My old grandfather can jump over that stick that fell on the ground. Because it fell on the ground and you don't really have to jump over it. You just step over it. You know,
that's an easy bar.
Yeah. So let's see. I have a couple of unpopular opinions. My first one is this. My first unpopular opinion is this. I fucking hate the fan base of all of the big 3 manufacturers, console manufacturers. I don't like Sony fanboys. I don't like Microsoft fanboys, and I'm fucking tired of Nintendo fanboys. I'm tired of the whole. I'm tired of fanboys in general, because you know. Now I didn't say fans. I said fanboys. Okay, because there's a difference. It's like there's Star Wars fan. Like I'll give an example. Okay, I'm going to use Ghostbusters as an example because I'm seeing a lot of the dichotomy between the
movie.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of dichotomy between the people. Okay, so a lot of the critics are shitting on Ghostbusters Afterlife because, well, they say that it's bland and it reuses a lot of the plot points from the first movie. It does, but it also does a lot of fan service to fans of the original 2 movies and the cartoons and all that shit. Now, for the people who are like shitting on that, these are also the same people who are shitting on this movie. Not all of them, but a lot of them are the same people who fucking praise that 2016 Ghostbusters movie that the fans hated. Okay, now here's my point. Okay, here's the difference between fans and fanboys. Okay, fans did not like that movie because it basically didn't feel like it was connected to the other films and like IPs in the series. Fanboys are like that movie because it ticked off a lot of fucking boxes that they had because they had a bias for certain things. You know, it had Paul Feig as a director, and he's very, you know, pro-woman. People like that shit. And, you know, it had an all-female lead cast, and that's cool and all. But ultimately, the movie just didn't make enough money. It was very expensive to make. They had to do some expensive reshoots. The movie didn't make the type of money they wanted to make. And it didn't help that Paul Feig and the people in charge of the media of that film went around antagonizing the fan base. You don't, if you're making something that's based on a legacy IP, the only reason that shit's getting made is because it has a built-in fan base. And if you antagonize the fan base, don't be surprised that you're gonna have issues. But
among other things, yeah.
Yeah, just me. I'm tired of fanboys on all of them. Okay, there is no product made by any of these companies that is beyond criticism. Because here's the thing. People, there's hating and then there's criticism. When people criticize shit, some people criticize because they hate it. Some people criticize because they're like, this is good, it could be better. There is no product that exists on the market that is perfect and beyond criticism. So that's my first unpopular opinion. My second unpopular opinion is I like Christmas Vacation. That's not really an unpopular opinion, but Christmas Vacation is my favorite Christmas movie. I like it better than Home Alone 1 or 2, which are essentially the same movies, except one takes place in New York and the other one takes place in wherever the fuck Kevin McAllister lives. I guess Connecticut or Hartford. I don't know. But for me, yeah, I love those two. I love Christmas Vacation. It's my favorite holiday movie. It's on Hulu right now, so you can go watch it if you want to. Or not Hulu. It's on uh, HBO Max. So it's not really an unpopular opinion. A lot of people like that movie, but it's one of my personal favorites. So I love it. Anyone else have any other unpopular opinions they want to get out before we wrap things up? This was a shorter cast. It was like a little bit over an hour.
I got one that probably is because of Kanoshi or one of our other crew members.
Uh-huh.
I consider anime movies kind of good filler. Not 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 content that's linked to the main story, but good filler. At least if you keep in mind that your mileage may vary depending on which animation you're into.
All right. Kenoshi, do you have one?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, that's the end of the cast. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Oh yeah, check out Project Console. 7:30 on Tuesdays. Did a cast last night. Check it out when you get a chance. Peace.
All right. This is Mr. Red Fox. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joel.
I I was thinking that at least this turned out all right. So if anything, thank you for watching the BS Busters Midweek podcast. Don't worry, next. We'll be back at Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Right?
That is correct. And this is Mr. Red Fox. If you want to get in touch with the channel or you want to be on one of our casts, all the information is in the description. You can reach me Gmail, Twitter, Discord. It's all in the description. That's the end of this cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and
Hype responsibly, please.
that's right. Peace. You know, we didn't get to Bobby Kotick, but I don't like Bobby Kotick, so.
Hey, if anything, we